Wednesday, May 1st, 2024 meeting of the Finance Committee to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilor Jordan-Lawitz.
Present.
Councilor Mack.
Present.
President Kaczynskis.
Present. Is anyone here recording the meeting? Okay. We're going to begin with the review and approval of the meeting minutes of April 1st, 2024.
Move to waive the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Jordan-Lawitz, seconded by Councilor Mack to waive the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented. Is there a discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. We're going to begin with department head updates, and this is something that at the beginning of the previous year, the end of the previous term, the Finance Committee had discussed, and so now that we have our full Finance Committee, we are going to move forward each meeting and have department head updates from the departments that we oversee as a standing committee of the City Council. And we will begin with the City Clerk. Come on over.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Clerk Sirican.
So just update the clerk's office. So we had John Oliveri, the previous assistant city clerk, and Faith Glover, who both retired. John retired in June 2023. Faith retired this year, March 2024. And then I have appointed Liz Dorian, which is the new assistant clerk. She's done an excellent job. You know, just hit the ground running. She's training right now and coming with me to all the meetings and learning on the ins and outs of city councils in the office, and it's done a great job. I also have another new administrative coordinator, Jane Kumar, also, who works in the office helping with the daily duties of the office. He was kind of just thrown into the fire in the middle of election season. Does an excellent job. I know, between Liz and Jay, brainstorming of how to make things more efficient and faster, and just organizing the office a lot better. Not bad, but really well. Last year we had 2 dual elections, as you're aware. We had one in October, one in November for the local elections, the primary, and the special state primary for the special state elections for the senator in general court who resigned, and we had to fill that vacancy. That was my first dual election. It was quite a challenge, but I learned a lot on that. Then we had obviously the presidential primary in March, and that included early voting and in-person and vote by mail. The mandatory vote by mail and in-person, it's a lot of work. More work in our office to do, having to process them, mailing things out, receiving them, opening them, and put them through the computers. Absentee ballots as well. Keeps us pretty busy. And then currently right now we are working on the 2024 census that's coming through. Usually they're mailed out in January, the beginning of the year, but because of the March election, it was delayed till March, because if I had sent it out in January, it would have messed up the voting list for the March election. But so far, it's been going well. We've been processing them as they come in, and it's just doing a good. I'm on track with everything. I thought sending it out in March would be chaos, but it wasn't. It's going through the piles, not bad. And then we also have dog licenses out right now. And so far, they usually do March 31st, but since I sent out the dog license, we've had a tax since January. People have been coming in on their own and just registering their dogs, and they're due March 31st, but the month of April, I kind of just waived a $10 late fee because we have a new program now. Our previous one just went bankrupt and just wasn't efficient. So now we're on the same platform as everyone else's City Hall, which is OpenGov. So anyone that has an OpenGov account can also register their dogs. They can get their electrical permits, building permits, and health permits all on the same platform, which is great feedback so far on that program. And then we have the regular daily vitals, issuance of birth, deaths, and marriages, marriage intentions. That's always a revolving door, people coming in and out of the office. And as far as city council business, I'm having Liz trained on obviously learning the ins and outs of city council minutes. I'm gonna start having the staff take over some of the subcommittee meetings for me, doing the agendas and doing the minutes, because it's just too much for me to do all the city councils in the subcommittee. So once they're more comfortable, they're gonna start doing the subcommittee meetings for me and the agendas. And then as of right now, we're in the middle of budget season, as you're aware of. That's about it for the clerk's office. Any questions?
Questions, comments from the committee?
I just have to say, I've worked with all three of you. I think Jay and Liz have been a welcome addition to your office.
Definitely.
They are very quick to respond to emails or to requests for things, and I just think just with more time, it's just going to become a better, well-oiled machine, and I commend the three of you for
Thank you.
for the hard work that you do.
I echo the councilor sentiments. As council president, we work very closely together and we share many phone calls throughout the day sometime. But I have to say, I'm excited for the full staffing, with well-deserved retirements, absolutely. And with any type of change in an office, there's challenges that come along with that. I know since COVID, when we had our special election and we had a lot of the new things that were put in place since then that didn't really receive any support in terms of new funding or anything. There was a lot put on clerks' offices throughout the whole state, and those people, I don't sometimes realize those are still in place, and so that work is still required of all of your elections and the way that you process things. And so I think the changing with the office and you clearly being through that before you came back to Gardner, kind of understand what those staffing needs are, and I think that's going to be really important moving forward. So kind of looking forward to the team moving forward, and I'm glad to see that it's the staff is there, and the elections went well. That's a huge challenge as well, and I think you manage the election staff really well too. So thank you for the update. Councilor, have you?
I just do want to thank the clerk's office in general, as you both said, for always being so helpful, responsive to any questions or concerns that we have, getting information quickly. Questions about council business are obviously part of the job, and you take it seriously, and just thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Clerk Stevenson.
Next on the agenda is registrars and
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, so we have our three registrars, Marcel Cormier, who's currently the chair, Pat Darby, Patricia Darby, and Mario Gray. So they help me out during the election times. They come at usually at the night times to help collect the cards and help me with any UCAVAs or IDC vote ballots that come in after the election, pending the elections. They also come in the office routinely for nomination papers. So right now we have nomination papers out for the September elections. So we receive the nomination papers and then we certify the signatures, and then the registrars need to come in and sign off on their end as well to verify what we certified, and then sign off to it and then give it to the candidates to pick up. So they're busy in that at the moment, so I appreciate them. And they stick around too to help us with any daily election related stuff like voter registrations, processing those cards that come in. I know some of them will help us with registering to, online voters or the RMVs, because now with the new laws with the RMV automatic voter registration, so they're automatic, when someone goes to the RMV, they're automatically registered to vote. Then we see it, and then we have to process all those, so our registrars come in and help us and do that. And then there's also the last day to register to vote, which we have to stay open until 5 o'clock, depending 10 days before an election. So they take turns coming in to sit around to see if anyone wants to register to vote till 5 o'clock, and the weekends too. So, but I appreciate them. And that's all I got for them.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee?
I just thank them. I think they've been consistent, serving the city for quite a while, so I think they're a well-matched team, and they know what they're doing, so I thank them for their service.
Yeah, I think they're very valuable for sure.
Definitely.
Nothing more to add from me.
Okay.
Thank you, Clerk Stevenson.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to Board of Assessors. We have Chris Kumar here, our assessor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so I'm gonna start with an update with the ATB, the Appellate Tax Board. In fiscal year '23, there were 4 cases for the ATB. 2 of them I was able to get dismissed because there were late payments made with interest. So those were kind of no-brainers, that was nice. And then 2 we had for 2 Parker Street properties that the hearings were in March, and we just heard on April 3rd that Chairman DeFrancisco voted in our, not voted, but decided in our favor. So fiscal year '23 ATB closed out. For fiscal year '24, so far we don't have any filings. We had 10 real estate abatement applications that were received. Of those, 3 were approved, and total taxes abated were over $10,000. Of those denied, 3, the increase in value was solely on the land, so that's why we denied those. The other 3 were commercial, and after review, the board did deny those, and those are the 3 that we think could possibly go to ATB. But they were denied in February, so technically they have 90 days, so we're looking at around May 19th as the deadline to file, so fingers crossed. We also had 3 personal property abatements that were received. All 3 were approved, and the total taxes abated were about $6,700. So pretty reasonable values overall that were abated. For motor vehicle abatements, I don't have a dollar amount abated, but since January 1st, we've basically processed 257, which, yeah, it's a lot. We have bulk mailings that we've done, income and expense forms and forms of list. The INEs go to our commercial and industrial, and they aid in valuation. So we usually get about a third of those back. We mailed 535 and we've got about 200 back so far, so that's pretty good. The forms of list get mailed to our personal property accounts, and we mailed out 556 and we've received 284 back, so that's really good. Very happy about that. This time of year is when I do map updates, and those are based on plans that were recorded in the previous calendar year. So for 2023, those have been done. There weren't many. They get sent over to Jonathan, who's the GIS person, and he updates the map side of things. I do the vision side. On the state level, I've started sending forms in through the Gateway portal. I've sent in the Veterans Exemptions form, the Motor Vehicle Exemptions form, and MDM1, which is for the personal exemptions, the veterans, elderly, blind, etc. So far, actually, I just had one. It was the motor vehicle approved yesterday. So as they go in, they look at them and we'll approve them.
Just to throw in there too, we get reimbursed for certain exemptions of those. So the blind, veterans, some other ones there too, and that's included in the budget packet. This year's a breakdown of what we get reimbursed for that, but we don't get that reimbursement if those forms aren't submitted correctly.
Exactly.
So she helps us out a lot with that.
So those actually, the deadline was April 30th, so they were all in on time and we should be good there. Then for moving on to fiscal year '25, inspections have started, building permit inspections that basically help to close out the permits as well as gather new growth, which, as we know, is important to the bottom line. I just spoke with the gentleman who assists us, Patrick Herring, and he thinks that by the end of next week they should be done with those inspections and data entered. So we're trying to get things done earlier this year. I don't know how much earlier will be, but we're giving it a shot. And then Vision has also started assisting with the review of the 2023 sales that go into calculating the fiscal year '25 values. Again, they're aware we want to try to get things done a little bit earlier, so they're on board with that because that makes it easier for them in the end. And ownership updates, basically newly recorded deeds. I check at least once a week So ownership is as current as possible for when we have to run an extract from Vision for billing. So we should be right up as updated as possible by the time Jen needs the billing information. And the only other thing really coming up, the personal exemptions, again, the veterans, elderly, blind, we mail those applications to people who've received them in the past. And throughout the year, I also, anyone who comes into the office, if they think they might be eligible for the coming year, I add them to my spreadsheet. So we'll mail those out by the end of July. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee?
With those exemptions, when we applied for those, the money back from the state that you're talking about, that was due yesterday, the
Yep.
applications, is it a percentage of the abatement, or is it the entire abatement? Does it depend on the type of exemption?
It's actually a little bit convoluted.
Yeah,
It
it depends on the exemption.
It does, okay.
It depends on the exemption and when we first, approved as a city, what
Adopted
types
the
of
exemption.
exemptions and how many there were. It's pretty
I know we
convoluted.
just adopted it, just the additional veteran one, just fairly recently.
Yeah, so I don't think that would come into what we're receiving in '25, because what it is the applications that she's submitting now, we get reimbursed for the following fiscal year as part of our cherry sheet
Right, so that'll
funding that we
be,
receive.
Gotcha.
I just always had a question on the filing for real estate abatement.
Yep.
Is it within the rules of the Board of Assessors, or why is it that if a resident files an abatement for their water or sewage, they can go before the Public Service Committee and present their case? But why is it for real estate tax? I did it years ago and presented all the information, but you can't present it to the board and you get a response with zero explanation. And it's always bothered me that residences, because that's a very different abatement than
it is.
$200 sewer bill. Why citizens can't present their case better, and it just seems like there should be more of an interactive process.
I try to make it interactive. It isn't part of the process as far as filing, like you said, and then coming before the board. I try to talk to people as they're filing. We have a discussion. What is the issue? What do you think? Let's look through the property record card. Let's see if there are mistakes. I actually had a person that came in for this current fiscal year, and we found mistakes on the property card. So she did file, we fixed those, but sometimes if you talk to people up front, and again, I like to be as transparent with people as possible. This is the process, this is what we can try to do. Sometimes you can even work it out without them even filing.
True.
So I try to have a discussion right up front. And we also tell people, and for it to be a deterrent, because I would never advise someone not to file, but we make them aware, if you file, we will schedule an appointment to come and inspect in and out, just, and a lot of people at that point, well, okay, we never hear from them again, but I like to speak to people up front.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just going back to, we've had the same board of assessors I'm going back 25 years, not even recently, and having other people in your position, not even you. And you get a letter and there's still no explanation. And I just think within the process, sometimes people become comfortable with the way they do things.
Yeah.
And I just think that sometimes, the process has to be looked at. And people deserve a little bit more than just saying it denied.
Yeah.
And I do talk to people, and I just think that, this is a very important process, and I think
Agreed.
people deserve a little bit more. So that's just my 2 cents worth as a counselor, that I just think that, sometimes it shouldn't be as cut and dry as it is.
We are bound by the process, of course, that the state dictates to us, but again, it does come kind of down to personalities in the positions and how we handle things. I worked for an assessor in another town who was very good about, when we did a letter, a denial, do a cover letter, that did explain why. So, that's a double-edged sword, but I also do that. When I do a cover letter, I do explain why.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions, comments from the counselors?
That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next update is from our purchasing director, Josh Cormier. Civil code enforcement and purchasing, good morning.
Morning. So just before I start, I just want to say, I've been with the city for a bit, and I just want to mention that I just love working with this financial team. John, Chris, Jen, and their teams we all work together and through the mayor's leadership, and I just think it's a wonderful team to work with, and I just want to mention that before I start. Chris, you can leave now. No, I'm just kidding. So I'll start with purchasing. So the process, purchasing has a lot of aspects to it. One of them is the purchase order process. So basically anything that the city purchases that's more than $1,000 requires a purchase order. The school side, it's any dollar amount. So it could be a penny, they have to do a purchase order. The purchase order process is a different workflow for everybody. It all ends up coming to our department where Amy, my financial admin, will inspect it first, and then it gets to me, and then I convert it to a purchase order, and then Amy will distribute it as requested. At this point, I'm the only person that can convert a purchase order in the city, so the process is dependent on me doing that. Currently in the fiscal year, we've processed 2,129 purchase orders with a total amount of $30,318,860.43. That doesn't mean we've spent that money, that just means that's what's been requested. Also, one of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is we've gone to a paperless process. So I just keep track of this. Back when I first started 5 years ago, we used to print out every purchase order, and we'd also print out everything that was a supporting document. So every purchase order had an invoice. Some of them had further paper. So this year, just purchase orders wise, we've saved 2,227 total pieces of paper. A box of paper is about $90, and it has about 5,000. So it's small money, but in the purchasing department, we're protecting the dollar, so we look at small money too.
We're also saving on space.
Yeah, oh yeah, saving on space big time, yeah. The second thing is contracts. So far this year, we've done 59 total contracts for an amount of $2,332,281.19. Once again, similarly, I'm the only one that can generate contracts. The contracts are signed by 6 people. It's usually the vendor. It goes to the vendor, the department head, me, city solicitor, city auditor, and then to the mayor to sign. We did go to a DocuSign process during COVID, which we've kept because it's hugely efficient. We can process a contract now, and if everybody's by their phone, probably 5 minutes. It used to be we would send out 3 copies. They would send us back. Then we would have to hand deliver them to everybody, and it could take a couple of weeks. Once again, we're saving paper there. I can't tell you how many pieces of paper, but quite a bit. We still have the large contracts that we have to do. Typically, your larger projects like the transmission main project or any of the construction projects, we do have to use paper still. But this saves us a heck of a lot of time and a lot of paper. Next up, similarly, we're also in the renewal process. So June 30th typically means a lot of renewals, a lot of expiration of contracts. This year, we started with 43 contracts expiring before June 30th of 2024. Some of those can be renewed, so they have, basically, you'll see as the item comes up, Mass General Law allows 3 years for a contract, unless we've requested otherwise. So again, some can be renewed, others need a new process we gotta follow, and there's 3 major laws that I follow in our department, Mass General laws. 30B, which is supplies and services, 149, which is construction, and 3039M, which is basically flat construction. It's like parking lots and roads and things like that. Again, DocuSign for most of the renewals can be done in days, but if we have to do that process, it could take 6 weeks based on advertisement, bidding, and all that stuff. So on March 1st, I notified all department heads of their expiring contracts. We're down to 36, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. So I have in my office is a whiteboard where I mark down what has gone away. So right now I have 12 that need to be renewed. Those will be done sometime in the next couple of weeks. Don't want to do them too early, but also I'm just preparing because again, if I don't know, it takes 6 weeks. Again, that's our renewal process. And if you guys have any questions, just stop me because I'm going through some categories here. Bids, again, some are result of renewals, but just to keep you updated on a few. We recently opened the transmission main bid. We've contacted DPW and we're waiting on the signatures, so it's with the DPW to get signatures on their contracts. Currently out, we have the Nature Trail Connector Shared Path from the Community Development Department, which is due May 8th at 1. The fire department has their debt collection for ambulance services. That comes in May 9th at 1. Just going live today is the violation processing through the PD, which is basically our parking ticket violations processed through a company. So they connect with the DMV. They also will provide us with an electronic database so that we can verify tickets that are issued. And then going live, I think Monday, and due May 24th is the office and janitorial supplies. That one is, WB Mason has the contract right now. It's basically how we order our paper and water and things like that. Also working on the basic excavation work, which is through the DPW, and I hope to have that out this week and due by the end of May. So I've tried to stagger them so we're not opening one every day, but it does get pretty busy. And each one of these requires me to maintain an email database on who's pulling the plans, and then communicating, doing amendments, so they get pretty hefty. And then next up is the end of year process. Typically we put deadlines in place for purchase orders, credit card purchases, all that stuff, and we'll be communicating that in the next 2 weeks. Typically John, the auditor, and I work on a process on his dates and my dates and things like that. Before I go on to civil enforcement, I just want to bring up department structure, because it's something I keep preaching and the mayor knows I'm talking about it too much, but I want to bring up, so I came in to that position 5 years ago and I've had 3 financial admins since. The last one I lost to an assistant director position in Leominster. I was lucky, I've been blessed to have Amy in the office, who's done a tremendous amount of work, who stepped up to do things that maybe hasn't been done in the past. She earned her MCPPO designation, which is what is required of in the purchasing department. She's also taken steps to take some projects on that maybe people haven't done in the past. She's become more involved with the Rockwell process, attending meetings, which I've attended one, but in the 5 years, those are the only 2 times we've attended. She's also developed some training documents to ease the process on purchase orders, and she's made it more visual. And then, as you know, Counselor, she's taken a leadership role for my department in the flower pot process, which I think she's very excited about. And I think it's cool because, we all go to work and we all leave something that it's work. And I think it's cool to have something that you're passionate about. I've been lucky enough to kind of do something on the side involving film that the city's kind of embraced, and I think this is something that she's found to be beneficial to her as an employee as well. So I totally support it and celebrate it. I think it's great. So that's purchasing. I don't know if you have questions on purchasing, or if you want me to hit civil enforcement, because they're 2 completely different aspects of the job.
I'd like to chime in if that's okay, Madam President. Josh did a good job explaining what he did, but I think he undersold certain things of what he does. The previous 2 purchasing directors we've had before Josh, I think sold maybe 2 city properties. We undertook last year to sell almost 10. I'll get to the civil enforcement stuff later on, but the hearings he's had has been almost a 5-to-1 ratio when you look at previous directors that have been here. The DocuSign has been tremendous because not only does that make it so that we get the contracts done quicker and it's less on my desk to sign, but getting those contracts signed is also what starts those projects from happening and getting that timeline. So every second that we save on getting the contracts done and put together is a second that's added to that project timeline starting sooner. And all of those things have come together to really make it so that we've had the busy and just general I guess, happenings in the city that we've had to make things continue to move and not just sit and wait until your continuous cycle of hurry up and wait. We're just getting things done now too. And that's because of the innovation and just the ideas on how to make city efforts more efficient that Josh has brought to the table. And I'm really happy to have him in the position. I think he's been a really good asset for us to have here, who's taken on a lot more work than a lot of other people in his position have had. We're just moving on with the times and just having different circumstances to deal with, but the same processes. So really nothing on his part that's changed that caused the further action to be taken by his department, but he just does it. And he does it really well. And he is right, we are working on trying to come up with a plan so that Josh doesn't have to work on every vacation he takes, because it is true that we can't get certain bills paid if he is not the one who processes those purchase orders or those contracts. But he earns vacation time just like any other employee and should be able to take said vacation time. So that is, again, a plan that we're trying to figure out how to address right now, because it is something that we need to fix. And I don't think it's something that was just ever brought to the attention of any of the previous administrations or the council or any of the budget discussions beforehand, that it was brought up that way. So it's something that we're working on moving forward, but we're really lucky to have Josh, and I think he's doing a good job.
My question was, you mentioned processing the purchase orders and generating contracts. It's just you, and what happens if you're not around? And so I'm glad to hear that's something that's on the table that's being looked at.
I've taken 2 full weeks off since I was hired. One was when I got COVID and was forced off, and the other one was last year, and I had to work on the Wednesday of vacation and the Saturday of vacation, so to process purchase orders. Because I also picked the wrong week, to be honest with you. I mean, the family, we picked the week, it was the end of June, which is the end of our fiscal year. So, you know, I mean, we have laptops, so it's a blessing and a curse. We can do things that we couldn't do before when we're at, you know, and it's a different kind of work when you're sitting at a lake than when you're sitting in the office. So it's not entirely awful, but it's still kind of terrible to not take
I've been
those.
there as well. With
Yeah.
on vacation.
Yeah.
At a campground, trying to use the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi to get things done. But yes.
Yeah, and I just think it's, you know, with the way things become more efficient, more is expected. So again, that's kind of the way it works. But you know,
Appreciate it, though.
if a bus was to hit me as I'm walking home today, then the city's going to be in trouble. Because
Look both ways, please.
yeah, I mean, because the Mass General Law can be overseen by Amy because she's MCPPO designated, but it's not really part of her job description.
The lack of redundancy that isn't there.
Yeah.
Further questions, comments?
And how long have you been in this position with the city?
Since October 2019.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so that speaks volume. I mean, you have a family and you should be able to take your vacation and disconnect like anybody else.
Yeah. The fun thing was I came in October of 2019, started to learn the job, and then the pandemic hit. So it changed the job completely. Yeah. And then, you know, just there hasn't been and as the other department heads will tell you, there probably hasn't been I don't know if we've had back-to-back typical years. Like there's always been something that's come up. And I think that's part of the interesting facet of aspect of working for a municipality as well. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I just think it's just a structural thing, and I don't know how we fix it. You know, well, I have a proposal, but I just think it's something that people should think about. And anyway, so I bring that up. But the mayor leads me into civil enforcement pretty well, because municipal hearings. So I start with I'm also, as the civil enforcement director, I'm the traffic commission rep. So I won't talk too much about that, but that's just something I wanted to throw out there. I'll start with non-parking stuff. The civil enforcement department maintains a database for all civil violations related to those issued by health, fire, building, PD. We use this when applications come before us, like somebody does a building permit, we have to review those. That's something that's done on I think OpenGov sends it either or to me and Amy, so we kind of split them. I also serve as the city's municipal hearings officer, so if you're keeping track, that's purchasing director, municipal hearings officer, civil enforcement director. I'll have 7 by the time I'm done, just kidding. Municipal hearings is a tough situation because we only get trained by the fire academy once a year, and it's the same training every year. The building department, I hear municipal hearings for the building department as well, but I've never received training. So I'm basically serving as a magistrate when somebody appeals a decision. So hypothetically, well, actually, I'll give you a real life. We've held one hearing in 2023. It was a building code violation issued. A building commissioner issues the violation. The appellant appeals it. I hear the hearing, and then I have to write a written decision within 21 days. So again, that was a pretty large hearing. I think prior to me, there was maybe one hearing held in 15 years. We've held, I think, 6 since 2020. So it's not like it's not incredible, but there have been some tough ones. There have been some emotional ones because this is not something that's easy for people. There's significantly large violations that are appealed sometimes. So anyway, that's the municipal hearing process. It's all governed by Mass General Law. 148A is the fire side, I think. But as the city clerk mentioned, we do have a part in the dog license process. Our part becomes more important when a dog license isn't done, and then a late fee is issued, and then it's still not licensed, and then it becomes a civil violation, and then we have to receive payment on that. So we've also been a conduit for virtual court hearings up in our office so that the animal control office will have a place to be. Now parking related, I also serve as the city's parking clerk. So if a parking violation is issued, we do receive appeals. So we can receive those paper-wise, we can receive those electronically. Mostly these are snow ban related, but over the last year, we've seen a lot more of people incorrectly or improperly parking in handicap areas. So that's been an eye-opening situation. We've received quite a few. But again, mostly snow ban. It also has, as part of the traffic commission, part of this has also caused us to look at some of the things that we have related to the snow ban that hasn't been updated. Signage and parking lots still refer to the old parking ban, the dates, from November to April, right? And then the timing. So we need to do something with our signage. We're gonna have to do something with ordinance. So traffic commission is looking at that as well.
The proposed ordinance change that has to be put up is that right now the on-street parking ban was amended to allow for the mayor to call a parking ban at any time dependent on weather. However, the parking lot version of the ordinance was not amended with the on-street ban. So therefore, you have conflicting ordinances with each other that say a parking ban can be called at any time. However, the parking lots now only overlap with the last 2 hours of the existing ban, or from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. or whatever it's listed right there too. So basically you could have a moment right now under the ordinances where you have an on-street ban and a parking lot ban overlapping each other at the same time. There's no place to park. So which part of the ordinance gets recognized and which one basically gets ignored by our enforcers? So that's something that we're gonna have to put forward within the next probably month or two, just to get it fixed so that when we get to winter this coming year, it's already taken care of and the proper signage put in place.
Yeah, and on the flip side too, there are times where if we don't do the parking ban, say we end the parking ban at 6, but we still need to clear a parking lot, then the parking ban doesn't exist in the parking lot. So there's just some language that needs to be done. It's just stuff that needs to be cleaned up, so. I also want to update you on what we used to call MapMac. I don't know if we're using that as a name. So it's basically the parking meter update. So we have looked at the parking meters back 5 years ago, I believe it was. We did a full RFP process to seek vendors. This time we've tried to do something a little bit more unique. We've looked at a plan to take, what we believe we can do is we can keep the housing that the parking meters, so you have the pole, you have the housing. We believe we can take the guts from the middle of it, pull it out, and we can put in new guts that will only be coin operated. And then we'll have to get new domes, and then we can put signage on the domes that will allow, we'll use a parking app, so that if you still want to use a credit card or you want to use Venmo or something that's now being used, what you'll do is you'll look at the sticker, you'll download the app, or you'll go to a website and you'll be able to pay via credit card that way. So what it'll do is it'll allow us to get rid of the solar battery issue, because what's happening is they're just dying. Solar isn't lasting. To upgrade them, it's hundreds of dollars to upgrade each one, plus the battery is, I think it's close to $100 to replace each. So what we're looking at is an idea that, again, we'll take the guts out, we'll put in new guts that won't require us to have a solar battery. I think it's a 9-volt battery that actually goes in there, so easy to replace. We're working with Brad Fusile, who's the
Parking meter technician. So Brad is counting what we have. I've also done an initial count, but we want to double check just the math. So we're checking how many meters we have, how many meters we need, and then we have some old meters that we think we can take the outside structure and replace and use those. We might even be able to replace them with a full meter in places that we don't have a lot of activities on the meter, a lot of activity on the meter. So again, we're just trying to use our money effectively and efficiently. So that's the plan. We hope to have something ready in the next few weeks, maybe to kind of come up with a concrete plan. We'll present it to the MAP committee, which is made up of a few department heads and a few business owners downtown. Mayor's Ad Hoc Parking Meter Advisory Committee. That's what the previous administration came up for the name, so we just kept it when we re-upped the position again.
And it's cool to say MAP back, I guess.
Is this something that we think that could be put into effect fairly shortly? I mean, because it's been a real mess downtown.
Yeah, I think it's gonna take some manual labor. We're gonna have to purchase the inside guts. I think the ones that we don't have to replace the guts with, and I keep using that term because I don't know what else, there's a technical thing to
I
it.
assumed it was a technical term, so.
Yeah.
It's an acronym, right? It stands for something.
Yeah, there's a technical term for it, I don't know what it is, but,
The inside.
yeah, it's the machinery inside. So, I mean, Brad's gonna have to go out, he's gonna have to pull out everyone, put them in. We are still gonna have to order, we think we're gonna have to order domes. The domes are the top part with the glass. Some of them we can replace, but some of them have yellowed. So just through old age. So yeah, I think it could be, but it's Brad, he's one person. I don't know if
He works 12 hours a week too.
yeah, I don't know if it's something that I don't know if it'll be part of the money that's spent. I don't know. That's kind of what we're looking at now.
I just think there's some higher traffic areas that I think could be focused on first.
100%.
I think that as well, like the maintenance moving forward, history not repeating itself on this.
Yes.
Let's do this, because people ask, I know as a counselor, people ask about meters all the time. I'm sure your office gets a lot of questions. I know the police do. It's just, you're working on it. I think that's great, to hear, but I think moving forward, let's just keep going with having to not do this again for a few years. Yeah.
I just want to add, I think the maintenance going forward will be easier too, because instead of replacing a $100 battery and worrying about the solar, because some of the meters just don't get enough sun, you're replacing them numerous times. A 9-volt to pull out and put in, I think it's going to be less maintenance. I mean, there are mechanics inside that might take a little bit, but we'll be buying the newer ones too, so.
And people will be using the app, which fingers crossed you pick one of the 9 I already have.
Yeah.
One of the things that we got as a suggestion for people was, just a QR code we can scan. We were advised to stay away from that, because what happens is we found reports of other locations where scammers are printing their own sticker QR codes and putting that over the QR code on the meter, and so you think you're paying the meter, but you're actually paying into someone else's bank account. So that's why we just have to reference a spot number on this app or something like that to make sure that we're avoiding something like that happening.
And I think it goes hand in hand too. As many meters as we can fix and have accurately working, it goes with the enforcement too. We have to have both.
Yeah, because we do receive complaints in the office about parking. That doesn't involve parking tickets. It involves, so-and-so, this vehicle is parked here for 12 hours. Why can't you do something about it? And I have to, even though I'm civil enforcement, I'm not issuing violations, I'm answering appeals, but it's a mechanism for turnover as well. And the other thing, just to add, we have looked at all options too. We've talked about kiosks, we've talked about, and it doesn't make sense for the way the setup of downtown is, because it's 14 spots per kiosk. So you think about a kiosk on the corner by Priscilla's would take you all the way to the Blue Moon Diner. So if you want to go to Blue Moon, you'd have to pay at a kiosk at Priscilla's to go back down. It just the setup of downtown doesn't fit a kiosk. So we have discussed all types of options. It just happens to be that this is probably the best. The only other thing I'd say about my department is I also serve as the tax title custodian, which involves when a real estate property is put up. In 2019, when I first came in, we auctioned a bunch of properties off, and I had to sit and give the okay, a thumbs up or a thumbs down if the money was accepted. I'm also the affirmative action officer, which involves minority and women in business enterprise when it comes to our bids. Those are less active of roles. So, and then I just say the last thing is that the department is focused on ensuring the dollars are expended efficiently and with as much savings as possible to the taxpayers. That's our job. We follow Mass General Law and the city charter on all things, and I hope we do it well. So,
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Thank you very much.
before you go on to the item, can I just do one thing? And it's kind of unorthodox, but I used to sit in your positions, and I know you've got people that listen to you. I just think it's ironic that you invited me in on May 1st. I just want to mention that it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think that people out there listening may need to hear that. A quote that has come to my heart recently is, all lights turned off can be turned on, and you're not alone. So I just want to remind people it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and thank you for letting me say that.
Thank you.
And I'll sit around for the next item because I'm here for that too.
Don't move.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the update, Mr. Mayor.
Just with regard to the department updates, Madam President, I hope it adds to when the budget gets submitted tomorrow, you'll see that each department head has actually written a full narrative for their department's request. That's why the budget binders look a lot thicker this year than they have in years past. And I also gave you just the balances in all our accounts, like the parking meter account, so you can see where we are in those matters. But just to help explain the behind the numbers and what's going on with the departments a little more, each department has actually written their own narrative for their budget, and their full department update included with that too. So I hope that helps with your considerations within the next month as well.
Thank you.
And I'd also add that as a city councilor for 8 years and as a department head for 5, that's the first time it's ever been done. So I think it's extremely cool and great for department heads to be able to voice in a narrative rather than. So I thank the mayor for that. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad we're doing these. I think it just with the transparency, just to add a comment, like with the city, I know other standing committees do updates regularly. It's just the way those standing committees have always been structured. And I think bringing them into other committees, I know public welfare is doing it. And Councilor General Louts has suggested for us to do it. And as I said, that this is really for the public. This is another effort, transparency on the council's part in the city, because it's something that we do really well in Gardner. And I completely biased in my opinion, but I think it's just another way to do it, to give a public platform and opportunity. So if we can do it during our standing committees, I just, I think it's a great idea that Councilor General Louts had suggested for us as well. So thank you for your time on that. Thank you.
It's an opportunity for each department head to highlight what their department does. People know at home, what are these roles? What are these roles? What do they do?
And I think they'll be shorter in the future. It's just this is the first time, so I think it's an opportunity for us to talk a little longer. And I always want to out-talk Chris.
You did.
Okay, moving on to item 11257, a measure authorizing a 5-year contract period for general office and janitorial supplies, violation processing, and emergency notification system. I think that pretty much sums up what this item is, along with your 2 cover letters, but if you'd like to go ahead into the item.
Just Mass General Law requires that if we go out for anything more than 3 years, we require council approval. Traditionally, we've gotten a lot better pricing on a 5-year deal because people understand that they're vested in a full timeline rather than having to basically start a contract, have a year, and then renew the contract. There's more opportunity there, and they can get a better value for it, and that in turn comes back to the city in a better cost on those contracts too. So we're requesting that the council vote to approve for those 3 topic areas, us to enter into a 5-year contract once those go out to bid and the bids get awarded.
Anything to add?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is I talked about office supply and violation processing. The emergency notification system is code red. Just Mass General Law requires us to do it. This one didn't require a public bid process given the amount, so I've sought multiple quotes on this, and we'll be able to award a contract once this is approved.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council?
No. Make a motion, we recommend passage to the full council.
Second?
Motion made by Counselor Denalout, seconded by Counselor Mack to recommend passage to the full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Counselor Mack, seconded by Counselor Denalout to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.